You ever have one of those days? One of those days where it's just a horrible, no good, very bad day, where things seem to be going upside down, things seem to be going the direction you hope they hadn't. Many of you probably have read this book to your child, or maybe you've seen the movie, or I see that there's a TV show out that had this book as its theme, Alexander and a Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. The day was horrible. He woke up with gum in his hair. He woke up and missing things, late for school, and just everything that could go wrong went wrong. As I was thinking of this book and thinking about the story with it, and you know, you hope at the end of the book everything turns out okay. Well, it doesn't turn out okay for him. It just says it's just one of those days. It just happens to be that's the day he had that day. Even in Australia, they have those days. But I was thinking about that. There's days that we have like that, right? Maybe the day isn't going the way we wanted it to, but maybe the day's gone even worse. Think about that day where things just didn't go well. Maybe it was the day that you received the phone call from a doctor. Maybe it was a day that a relationship ended. Maybe it was a day that the bottom just fell out. Not kind of like Alexander's day. His day he could recover from, but maybe it was a day that has been very difficult to release. It's difficult to have that hope. Difficult to say that there's something good that's going to come out of this. Maybe it's one of those days where it just seems like the world is crashing in. As we've been looking through this passage in Isaiah 61, that's the mindset that we need to have in coming into this passage and coming into seeing God's word for today. Because that, as the people in Isaiah's day, they are having not just a day, but years of that struggle, years of that heartache, years of that terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Let's look at the scripture for today. I'll read the white and ask that you join me in reading the green. As Isaiah 61 goes, "The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from the darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn and provide for those who grieve in Zion, to bestow upon them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. They will be called oaks of righteousness, a planting of the Lord for the display of His splendor. They will rebuild the ancient ruins and restore the places long devastated. They will renew the ruined cities that have been devastated for generations. Strangers will shepherd your flocks. Foreigners will work your fields and vineyards." You see, the people of Isaiah's day have had this very difficult time. And as they're gathering together and Isaiah is beginning to speak to them, he's beginning to plant within them a different way. A different hope, a different understanding of their circumstances. Because he begins by saying, you know what, this is the messenger. This is who's coming. These are the words that are being shared. Make sure, the ideal messenger that begins with a spiritual person who speaks the truth, whose words have healing and comfort, whose words bring release, because that horrible, no good, very bad day is holding us down. That struggle that we have has that clamp, and we need that person to come into our life and into our heart to speak to us, to remind us that day, that circumstance, those situations, that heartache is not what has a hold of us. Because we have a new hope. We have a hope that erases that, a hope that changes that picture, that changes that book, that changes that message. Because we've received a message of despair, we've received a message of hurt, we've received a message of destruction. But this messenger, this word from God, this ideal message that comes to us has a different words. Excuse me. It begins with a hope for a hopeless time. It's redemption and freedom for the captive. It's that despair that has a hold on us, and now all of a sudden there's something different. And we have that glimmer of sunshine that begins to open up and begins to pour into our heart. That all of a sudden the walls that have felt like they've held us captive, all of a sudden the doors are open. And just like other times when that door opens, we're tentative to walk through. See, the people in Isaiah's times have been bound up, they've been enslaved, they've been removed, they've been taken away from their family, their friends, their homes. And now this message is coming to them, this message that says that God is coming, that someone's been anointed to proclaim the good news. And that freedom is just a little bit of a toe first. That release. And their hopes are kind of getting awakened. There's comfort for those who mourn. There's that reconnection with God, that God hasn't left, that God is still with them. And this message begins to build. And this message begins to open a doorway. Because their circumstances are about to be reversed. It's about to turn around for them. That reversal that comes about, that reversal that says that they were enslaved. But now in this verse 5, it says they were enslaved, but now there's people that will work for them. That they won't be the slaves, they will have others that will do the jobs. That their low estate will now be raised up. That the poverty that they've been in, the poverty that they've seen, they'll now become landowners. They'll become different. It's no longer the circumstances are holding them down. God has breathed into them a newness. God has breathed into them a hope and a life that changes. And this picture is being painted. This picture is being opened. Because there's this ideal, this faith that they've had, the faith that's been removed because everything has gone against them, that this horrible day continues to pile on. And they're not able to let go. And if you go back to that moment in your life and you think about that horrible day, when it seems like everything has left, including God. And we struggle. What do we do? The people in Isaiah's time were no different. They're struggling as well. Their hearts are breaking and they feel like God has left them. And all of a sudden, as this message begins to be a part of their life, this message begins to grow and bloom. All of a sudden, there's a faith, a greater faith, a bigger faith, a faith that says, you know what, the struggles of today, yes, they're here, but they no longer hold me. Because the God I serve, the God I love, the God I walk with, the God I've continued to see just small pieces of is beginning to do a new thing. He's beginning to rebuild. He's beginning to open up doorways. He's beginning to provide that hope that I need. He's beginning to show me and open my eyes to a truth that this day, this age, this heartache, this life doesn't hold me. That there's something greater. There's something bigger There's a freedom, there's a release, there's this good news. And it doesn't have to be. Now, the people in Isaiah's day have that mindset, and they're beginning to make that shift. We're a couple thousands of years later. But we can identify with this prophecy. We can identify with the words Isaiah shared, because our circumstances, we may not have lost our home. Well, maybe we have. We may not have lost our friends, but maybe we have. We may not have lost our families, but maybe we have. We may not be enslaved. Maybe not physically. But there are things that hold us down. There are things that we allow to rule our life. Maybe this word that God gave to Isaiah is also a word that's been given to us. Maybe there needs to be a reversal of our circumstances. Maybe there needs to be a reversal of who we are. And maybe we begin to understand that pain that we have. And as we look at the people in Isaiah's day, the pain that they're going through, we may not have the exact same pain, but we understand it. And there's a reversal that comes. There's a reversal that happens in our life. It doesn't say the reversal is that they won't be pain-free. No, as I have read through the Bible many times, and as I've looked through scriptures, I don't see pain-free as part of that reversal. But I do see a strength. I do see that in that pain there comes a strength and an encouragement. There comes that opportunity just to allow God to work and to be encouraged that there are others who are struggling. There are a community that is walking with me, a community of followers of Jesus who continue to be by our side, who continue to understand and to struggle with us. A community that says there is hope. That pain is not the end. Maybe it's the heartache that we go through. And that circumstance, that heartache that becomes a part of our life, that heartache that we think is destroying us. And we cannot see beyond it. But then we hear about this good news. We hear someone entering into our life, and we watch them come in, and we know that they've gone through heartache similar to ours, maybe even worse than ours. That heartache that they had, we don't know and we don't understand it. It would crush us. But in the middle of that heartache, we see them being comforted. In the middle of our heartache, they bring that comfort to us. Because they're that messenger, they're bringing that good news, they're opening our eyes and our ears to who God is and what He's doing, that in that pain they brought encouragement, in that heartache they bring comfort. That there is a hope that begins to build within us, a hope that begins to sprout. Because the ashes of our circumstances, the ashes that we feel that we're in, that continue to hold us down, can now be released. But as we're in those circumstances and we're in that pain, we're in that heartache, all of a sudden guilt rises up. And guilt begins to remind us of where we are. Guilt reminds us that it's our fault. Guilt begins to remind us that yeah, we are where we are. But then we hear something different. We hear a fresh word. We see a movement of God, and that guilt no longer holds us because all of a sudden we understand forgiveness. We see someone living that out in our life. We see someone who's able to forgive someone who we don't get it. The words that person said, or the struggle that I am, or it's always that person's fault. And we're able to hear that message, that good news of Jesus that begins to say, but forgiveness is for all. Forgiveness is something that we have received. Forgiveness is something that we give. That we no longer hold that person in contempt. We no longer let that heartache identify or be the marker of that other person. We're able to release. We're able to forgive. We're able to let that door be opened. We're able to see that newness of God. And there's one more that horrible, no good day does for us. It has an opportunity to cause death in our life. To cause us to die a little each day. But then this reversal happens, and then all of a sudden we don't see death through this. We begin to see life. We begin to see life because we see that encouragement. We feel that comfort. We're able to have that forgiveness be a part of our life and part of our everyday moments. And life begins to bloom, and life begins to grow out of that, and hope begins to enter into our being, and joy begins to follow that hope, and peace begins to surround us, and love is that foundational part of it that opens our eyes up to the newness of God, the forgiveness of God, the hope of God, the life-changing peace that Jesus is bringing to us. I've been thinking about this reversal, thinking about these words where Isaiah spoke, and Isaiah said, strangers will shepherd your flocks, foreigners will work your fields and vineyards, and that reversal of circumstances that the people of God were going through. And I thought about it for a long time. Because there are times where these words are just words, right? How do they become a part of who we are? Those are good words for Isaiah. And what's that example that we can have? Ever lose a job? Ever lose a job without being known you were fired? I have. And it was a job that I felt that's what God had called me to, and life had built up to that moment, and I entered into that position and thinking things will be different and life will change. And God's going to do a great work in this ministry. And 14 months later, I was no longer there. 14 months later, I was trying to put my life back together. 14 months later, I'm trying to figure out, God, what happened? All this hope that you had risen, this calling that you'd placed, all of a sudden was gone. And now what? That pain began to grow, that heartache began to be a part of that day, and that guilt became a part of my life. I love to say that it changed just like that. But it didn't. And in fact, those wounds are still a part of my everyday. Those wounds are still have that opportunity to grab a hold and take me back into that ash. But each day I remember the hope God gives. The hope that things will be different, the comfort and the encouragement, the forgiveness and the life. And it would be easy to say, in that moment when the dream job was gone and it had been easy to curl up in a ball and stay there for a long time. But if I was still in that moment, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to celebrate. I wouldn't be able to worship. I wouldn't be able to be here to share with you the good news. That God died, that Jesus died and rose again, that Jesus brings forgiveness and life. Wouldn't be able to bring that hope that we have at a table like this, a table that says life can be different. That the ashes we live in are not what's defining us. That there is a reversal coming. That there is a hope. That a table like this, that anyone and everyone is welcome to be at. A table like this that has the body and the blood of Christ. A table like this that opens a doorway to remind us, to show us, to speak to us, and to give us that future hope that that terrible, horrible, not a very good day does not define us. That heartache does not control us. That pain does not hold us captive. That guilt does not paralyze us. That death does not have a stranglehold on us. Because we have comfort, we have strength, we have forgiveness, and we have life. This morning, as we partake of communion, as we partake of the body and the blood, remember that body that was broken. And when we eat of it and take the cup, experience the forgiveness. And as we sing our last song and we go into the world, look forward to being that comfort. Look forward to being that encouragement. Look forward to be that one who shows forgiveness. Look forward to having that life that you're living. Look forward to being that messenger with the message of God to give.